He dropped out of homeschool in 5th grade. His overprotective mother and mostly disengaged father did the best they could. In his early 20s, he walked into his dad's apartment and found him dead. He's lived with his mother ever since, and he's been ridiculed for his codependent relationship with his mom. He didn't learn to drive until he was 28. He eventually graduated from Digipen Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in computer science and went on to create software for Formula One, IndyCar, and the Boeing Company, which awarded him the Boeing Performance Excellence Award in 2014. He took vulnerability to an extreme level by appearing on TLC Discovery's hit show 90 Day Fiance and its various spinoffs. He's currently trying to distance himself from destructive patterns, and he shares with us some never-before-discussed details of his ongoing development as a man.
If you're a man that controls his own destiny, a man that is always in the pursuit of being better, you are in the right place. You are responsible. You are strong. You are a leader. You are a force for good. Gentlemen, this is the Alpha Quorum.
Welcome back to the Alpha Quorum Show. Brad Singletary here. Super excited to have our guest today, who is a reality TV star. He's done lots of good things in his life, making all kinds of big moves right now. We'll share more of the introduction at another point here, but just want to give a warm welcome to Colt Johnson.
Hey, how you doing, Brad?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
So we have a Las Vegas resident here with us who has done some really cool things out in the world of show business. I want to kind of dig into that a little bit and find out how that all came to be and what that whole thing has been like. This has been several years that you've been involved, I think. And so just tell us, so from the beginning, how did you get involved with television?
It's funny you say Las Vegas resident. I still don't consider myself resident, even though I've been here for like 5 years. But
has it only been 5? Oh, yeah, wow. Okay.
So I'm still kind of a newbie here, I guess. But
okay.
It's weird. It's been 5 years, but it's been 5 very long years.
Long, hot years.
Long, hot years, let me tell you. But so originally I'm from Seattle.
Okay.
At the time, I was engaged to a woman named Larissa, who was from Brazil.
Right.
And I was looking to move. So one of the places was Las Vegas. Another place was Nebraska.
Okay.
Omaha, Nebraska, for those out there wondering. So I asked Larissa would she rather live in Omaha, Nebraska or Las Vegas, Nevada, and she picked Vegas. So took my mother and my cats and moved out to Vegas and rented a house and started work. And a few months later, my fiance, Larissa, came out and joined me. And, well, I guess that was a show. But
so that's my question is, were you connected as part of that show, or you knew her independently and you kind of joined the show? Or
no, I was already engaged to Larissa. We were fans of the show. We watched it together while we were engaged, before we were even involved with it. Larissa was a fan of the show. She was like part of like fan groups on like social media.
Okay.
Right. And they had like production on the forums, HR kind of looking for potential, cast members. So apparently one of them emailed Larissa asking them, hey, would you be interested? Because Larissa, hey, my name's Larissa, showed off her life and what she's doing, her story, with the other fans or whatever. So basically it was just like I guess a cold email, and Larissa asked me, we went back and forth and went a lot of back and forth actually with it. No one wanted to do it. My mother didn't want to be part of it. Larissa didn't want to do it. I was the only one that wanted to do it originally.
Okay. So she talks you into this thing. Women have a way of doing that stuff.
Yeah. She was nervous about it.
It was her idea, but she started getting cold feet.
Yeah, but she was getting cold feet, because, it's very, you put yourself out there, exposing yourself and everything, and she had certain things that she didn't want, out. And me, I don't know. I'm boring. I just went to school and I work, normal jobs.
So what year was that? Was that right as you're moving here 5 years ago?
So that was like 2017. So I moved here September 2017 originally. So this was probably like January, February, maybe like June or so of that year. We're talking about this and talking about moving and stuff. And being involved with everything.
So this show is 90 Day Fiance. That's a TLC program for those who don't know. And then, so just talk about the development of that whole thing, the relationship, the show, the work on that itself. I mean, you've been through you've been through 30 years of stuff in 5 years.
I do feel like that. I'm not even kidding. Like I spent a lot of my teenage, early 20s kind of not doing a whole lot, but not in my 30s, I really blossomed. I accelerated far beyond my capacity. So I've grown too much, too far. I guess that's why my hair is so long right now.
So you moved to Vegas and you got started on the show.
Yeah. So we moved to Vegas. Even when I moved to Vegas, we still weren't sure about the show. We were going back and forth. We auditioned. We did like a video conference, before it was cool, this is back in 2017. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And we just thought it would be best for our relationship. We earned some money, and we'll probably just be boring, be on a couple episodes and that's it, no big deal. So we got it selected, we signed the contract and then in, I want to say in early 2018 is when we started filming, and then it aired at the end of the year, 2018.
So we call it reality TV. A lot of people are skeptical about that and they think this whole thing is staged and scripted and so forth. And, obviously with some things they have to plan it like, okay, we're going to go here at this time so that people know to go there to start filming you walking into the place. But other than that, the storylines basically, would you say that's reality?
I mean, reality is subjective to be sure, but
okay.
Everything I did on television was real. I was never past a script or anything. There was no intervention, lines passed at all. They just want to follow what's true, because what they want to really know, what they really want to capture is the emotion between people. That's what's important. That's the reality of everything. Now you can come into this filming and pretend to be in a relationship, pretend to have, antagonist with other people or whatever, maybe you can maintain that. But in my experience, people that try that, they come off very fake and they're not popular. People that are popular that stick with the fans are the ones that resonate with them. They hit an emotional chord, and it's hard to do that without generally displaying emotion, real emotion.
So what happened with Larissa? I know that you talked about they wanted to capture the feelings or the emotions between people. It looks like from what I saw from those bits, then there was definitely some emotion.
Larissa and I were not compatible at all. I was very much, flattered by her looks and her personality, and she tolerated me. She wanted whatever to get out of her situation, and I wanted to get out of mine. And I guess I thought together we could work together, but we were just basically like complete opposites. So that reflected a lot both in television and in our personal life. Even when the cameras were off, like things were crazier when the cameras are off and then we're on.
Oh, I'm sure.
When the cameras are there, let me tell you.
They've got to keep it somewhat like,
yeah, you got to keep it, PG,
digestible for
PG
TV.
teen or whatever. But, it also it was a relationship I raced into. We didn't have much in common, different language, and then we were pretty much like when she first came to America, cameras were rolling. Like there was no, and all the way until our divorce, really, the cameras were there. So we never really had a sense of a time block where we were together that we weren't influenced by that pressure, that nervousness from that.
So you said you guys weren't compatible at all. She's a hot little Brazilian. How did you even to begin with? I mean, because I guess I didn't realize that this was part of the show and that she comes to you because you're on TV, but you started that together.
Oh yeah, we started together.
So how are you pulling these kind of chicks?
Well, that goes back to a whole other thing. So I was in Seattle and I was single at the time, and I was browsing, the dating apps, and I came across this Brazilian. And so I went on a date with her, started talking with her. We didn't really hit it off, but she was friends with Larissa. So she introduced me to Larissa.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that's how I met Larissa originally, and we started talking. And
I see.
The rest is television.
So talk about that relationship a little bit, just how it unfolded, what happened, how long before it was done and whatever, and what were some of the...
Oh, with Larissa? Well, when we first started talking, she knew no English whatsoever. So we basically exchanged gifs, animated pictures or memes or whatever the kids call them now. And eventually she started learning English by herself. So she, texting better, would be easier to text her, communicate that way versus, voice, initially that was hard. So our relationship was just basically, hanging out, playing games, kind of showing each other clips of things, it's kind of very, very surface level, very minimal level as you could possible from that. But then after a few months of doing that, I met her in person in Mexico. We met in the middle, basically. Spent a few days together in person, and even then there were telltale signs of our incompatibility. But
oh boy, having
Larissa there, I just felt like king of the world, basically. Man of the world in this foreign land with this foreign beauty, and I felt great, and I just took this kind of like rush of feelings as love or as things that weren't real. Basically, it was just like instantaneous feelings of pleasure, and I was mistaking that for like real long-term emotional love, and it wasn't there, unfortunately.
That takes some maturity to be able to make that distinction between the chemistry and the passionate feelings that show up in the beginning, new hot girl and whatever. It's the novelty of everything. You're saying that was mistaken for love in the beginning. You've learned maybe something about love outside of that relationship because you've moved on and carried on.
Yeah, my perception of love has definitely changed, evolved over the years. I mean, I've always chased it like it was like my last breath of air, essentially. This need, this thing that I never had. And that's something that I'm still discovering to this point. I think it goes back to basically the dawn of myself and, who's there at the beginning, who loves you, and, why that is and such. And I've always been kind of chasing that. But as I got older, I replaced that type of love to, love of affection, lust, physical love, very primal, basic love as you could possibly get. Because that's basically all I knew or could understand.
So 5 years ago, how old were you?
27. Wait, no, what am I talking about? So I was 34 or so. Yeah.
Okay.
33.
Okay.
33, 32.
All right. And had you had other relationships before? Were there major, big, long-term relationships?
Oh, yeah. Surprisingly, my relationship with Larissa was one of my shorter relationships. Mm-hmm. So go figure with that one. I had, I guess you would say, 3 long-term relationships before my wife, before Larissa. The longest was probably like 4 or 5 years, and then 3 years, and then 2 years. So I was married for 1 year, so I guess I was counting down.
So you get your life all out there on TV. I looked up at one time, if the number's wrong, help me if you know better, but I think I saw that show, the viewership is like 30 million. The audience is about 30 million people are watching this show.
Oh, I don't know the numbers, but let me tell you, it's all over the world globally. It's translated in multiple languages and different platforms, and it's been going on for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. So you get your whole life exposed in front of everyone in the world. We're seeing, fights on TV. We're seeing arguments. We're seeing drama and these things. And that's kind of that's cool TV. But this is your real life. This is your actual day-to-day existence happening. That's in this intense way. Talk about how that all went to the end of the relationship. What happened?
My marriage to Larissa, I mean, it reflected a lot in the show. We fought a lot. We argued, we bickered. Doesn't matter if it was about money, my mother, myself, there's always points of tension, in real life, and the show reflected that. That's a big reason why we were popular, honestly, because it was all real. It was all very, very, it was unfortunate. It was a very dark time for me. I was very sad. I was going to it was a very sad time for me. I moved, I just moved from Washington. So I was in a new state, a new job. I didn't particularly like the state or the job or anything, and here's my fiance who very much antagonist towards me and throughout my marriage. And, in a lot of ways, the show was there kind of the only thing that kept me really sane or kept me going or interested, kept me grounded, because it was something that I looked forward to, something I could plan, something that Larissa and I could actually plan together and look forward to. And even though we fought, it was just, I don't know. It was just, it was just something for us to bond over.
Yeah, there's some excitement. There's some attention involved with that. I can imagine, what happens on social media, and you're in all the magazine, everywhere where fans of these types of shows are. You're right in the middle of it. Your picture's there. There's video clips. There's YouTube. There's all this just exposure. And that had to feel good to be maybe seen. And even if some of what was being seen wasn't your best.
I remember the first meme I saw, I was like, what the heck is that? It's just ridiculous. It's like croissants or something about it. It's crazy. I just never thought that would ever be a thing. And, and then over time, it was funny, and then became kind of I remember Larissa was very public during our fights. During the end of our marriage, we'd fight a lot, and she'd go to, live streaming and broadcast, her grievances with me, whether, privately or in front of me, basically. And that ran into a lot of problems with the show, because we were filming this time, so we couldn't spoil anything. So we'd fight about that as well. So it was it just became this Ouroboros of, problems of 10 points of tension, problems, arguing, and it just didn't stop, essentially. And at the end, it blew up. And then I remember our second, so this was Larissa's second arrest, and she would broadcast it on live streaming and everything. And people were live, commenting, it was a crazy thing. People were calling my cell phone. They were finding my number, they were calling the police. They're calling whoever they could, because they thought it was beyond myself. It wasn't just me having an argument with my fiance. I was me against the world at this point, because of the show, because we were on a television show.
You didn't mean for that part to happen. That wasn't
no, this is the cameras weren't even there. That's the best part. That's what I'm talking about, right? They were taking the weekend off, and this is just a Saturday morning for us, and the cops were eventually called. I don't know, a fan or something. They found our address, and they busted in the front door with their guns drawn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they pulled my ass out because, and then they were ready to, haul my ass in the paddy wagon. But when they found Larissa, they're interviewing both of us back and forth, and they arrested her.
Mm.
But it was just and all that was escalated because of the tension from the show, because of the fans, because of Larissa doing all that. It was just, there's a lot of points of tension that I would say my marriage definitely hyper accelerated to its final conclusion. Mm. Over the cliff, the railroad tracks,
right,
burning over the cliff. It just was too. It would have happened anyway, whether it was a year, which, I was married for 6 months, so if it wasn't for the show, I think would maybe took 6 years, who knows, but it would have ended probably, unfortunately.
You glad it did? Glad it ended?
I mean, I'm not glad it ended. I mean, I unfortunately, things happen and we weren't compatible. I mean, it's a good thing. I'm glad I learned we weren't compatible, and I was able to move on from it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Unfortunately, I wish I could have saw that before I got married, but I guess that was kind of the learning blocks I had to go to learn.
So after Larissa, the show thought they've got a star here.
After Larissa, yeah.
They got this guy. So then you proceeded there was another relationship at some point. To talk about that one briefly.
So after Larissa and I separated, she moved on and started dating someone else. Mm-hmm. And then I started dating someone else. It's just so this woman was visiting from out of town, and I met her in Las Vegas. And we just kind of hit it off. Well, hit it off, she's younger, and, I was single again. We hit it off in the sense of she likes to drink, and, I like to have fun with a girl that is single.
Okay. And so that turned into something quickly too. I mean,
so that as soon as that we were relationship. I mean, it wasn't even we were in a relationship. It was more just we met, and then I was attracted to her, and we just kind of hit it off. And I told production that, because they're always kind of curious of, what's new, what are you doing? So, and then I told them, oh, I'm dating a new Brazilian, essentially a younger Brazilian. And then they liked that idea for some reason. So they followed my ex-wife and myself independently. We were going through our divorce at the time. So she was dating her boyfriend, mm-hmm. and I was dating my girlfriend.
Okay. And then what happened from there? Where did that take you from there to your current?
Well, that was just kind of the start of, that was a split of my whole other life, I guess. In a lot of ways, my marriage with Larissa was a prologue, which I never thought that would be. But after that, I felt, I got some kind of, sense of, chip on my shoulder a little bit, I felt kind of good about myself. I was on TV, I had a lot of attention from other people, and I never had that before, obviously, not to that extent,
Right.
And I still wanted to be a good person, but I still wanted affection and things. There's always, I guess I grew up, I was very selfish, I was the only child. So like, I had a girlfriend, but my girlfriend was like long distance, or there's always these things. I just want more and more and more. So, and I was just like, I would accept love at whatever the cost. Like, it doesn't matter if I felt bad or if I felt like, whatever exception, as long as I felt I was receiving love, that was okay. So there was a lot of relationships I had, including the one with the Brazilian, that just affected me. It was just like, I just wanted to feel something, feeling love, whether it would take a drink or do some kind of, drug or whatever. It's just, I'm always chasing that feeling. And so that's what happened after my divorce. I just wanted to feel love, because I was very much in this deficit of love. I just felt like I needed to feel happy, joy, so I took that for lust. I took it for drinking. I took it for all the earthly pleasure desires. And this woman represented a lot of that. So that's kind of what I fell into. So that already was a bad state of mind, and then that mixed with my newfound celebridom. I was talking to a bunch of girls, they'd send me a bunch of pictures, inappropriate imagery, and I'd return the favor because, I was German like that, I guess. And even so, and then I had a friend at the time who, she was a fan of the show, but she was local in Vegas. And then we started talking, and I really confided in her a lot during my marriage to Larissa. She's just kind of my only outlet a lot of the time. So she never went away from Larissa, but she was never interested in me. She was married, so like she didn't even want to. She had no hopes to marry, to get with her, even though I would have loved to. Let me tell you,
right?
I would have totally loved that. But so basically, I wanted more than her, and she always kind of turned me down. So here comes this young, hot Brazilian that likes to do all these earthly pleasures and wants to be on television with me. So why wouldn't I do that? And since I knew it was kind of a fluff thing, it's just, I didn't really care. I didn't really care at anything at that point in my life. I kind of hit rock bottom, right? My marriage was over. I felt crappy. I felt like no one really loved me at all. So I was like, well, I don't really love anybody then.
You talk about hitting rock bottom, but that's when your popularity and your, being known around the world, that's when that's sharply growing.
It wasn't even the rock bottom. I thought that was rock bottom.
Oh, you just felt it at the time. I'm here, man.
Yeah. You could fall so much more in life.
Okay.
So you keep going in this, like, I don't fuck it type of attitude in life with my relationship to this woman. In all honesty, it only lasted, like, I only saw her total of maybe like 12 days in person. So we had like a long distance for like 3-4 months, but it wasn't a big thing on my side. And I guess I never really kind of portrayed that intention. I don't understand. I think we both had ill intentions, but I can't speak for her. But at the end of the day, I just kept growing like the snowball, right? I just kept going bigger and bigger down this hill. And I just, I've been drinking more, smoking maybe more, or just doing bad things, hanging out with bad women, to some extent, and this is, I would hang out with, or just talk to people that there's just nothing there. It was just hollow experience, just because I just wanted to feel something. So I talked to more women. They send me more pictures. I send more pictures. They send me videos. I send them videos. So a lot of my inappropriate imagery was leaked. You
got your junk out there too?
There's like a collection series. I would say, there's about 12 or 14 good videos. Even to today, I shit you not. You go on social media, they still talk about the clips. They trade them like they're collector cards. Gotta collect them all, I guess.
That's funny.
But yeah, I can laugh about it now. But I remember when that first happened, it was a big, it was all on the social media, I was like devastated. I mean, people like saying, how he's disgusting. Why would he send these to poor people? I'm like, well, they were sending me stuff too, So it's just, so it was like, I have this bad public opinion. I have myself exposed in this very, embarrassed way possible. People were making fun of me. Always, of course, someone's going to say, you have a fucking 7-foot log in your fucking pants or whatever, right? But and it's just a lot of people could read shit online that could destroy their mind, right? If you're careful.
I can't imagine what kind of things have been sent to you.
Yeah, I mean, you dig far enough, you could read the worst comments forever about yourself, and you just, I mean, you have two choices. You could take that and really hold that inside of yourself, or just look at it and walk away. And I've seen most people, unfortunately, take it, and they still they have to keep looking. They can't not look away. It's like their hands or their eyes are glued to their screen, and they have to know why they're not loved, and it just becomes this obsession.
Was the opposite true as well, though, that you got a lot of comments? Was there a lot of loving, supportive? Were there people saying, you go, or was there positive things? Or?
Oh yeah. I definitely have my fan base. Let me tell you, I got my fans that love me and support me and wish me the best. And, in whatever I do, I've had a lot of fans tell me like, oh, they have family members ask if they have more Colty on, like more shows of me and stuff, not 90 Day specifically. So, if I meet people, in real life or whatever, they're always very happy. And I had one person, I had one person cry. It was their birthday. We're at a restaurant, and they were a little drunk, but they were crying, bawling tears, like they just met like the Pope or something. And it was just, I was with my wife, and we just want burritos.
You get recognized all over the place. Do people see you?
Even today, surprisingly, I mean, more if like I'm on something that's on television currently airing,
right.
But it depends, more, demographic, or more, observant, they're more popular in other demos, other cities, other places. You go to a place like Walmart, you get recognized more than, maybe other places, for example. But I love my fans. They've always been very nice. They've always been, very cool. And, actually, I've had some really, really nice experiences. Like people write me nice messages saying, they're feeling bad about their lives or whatever, but they can watch what I did and relate or feel better about themselves or bring them some sort of happiness or joy, and, even when you think about it at the time when I was filming this, like my divorce with Larissa, I was crying and miserable. Like I said, one of the darkest times of my life, but, it's also pretty funny to a lot of people. And looking back now, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty funny because I have that disconnection now. Right.
Right.
So like people actually appreciate that. And it's something that we're, people don't got a lot, most people don't have a lot. And so to make someone feel a good emotion, a positive, happy experience, even if it's watching a video clip like that, that really means a lot to me.
Yeah. So after the second girl, you had this friend that was, kind of on deck. She wasn't that interested. You tried to make something happen with her.
Yes. And then, so this friend, she divorced her husband finally. But she still didn't want to be in a relationship with me. So I'm like, well, I got rid of the guy. You still don't want me? So I'm like, she's like an onion. How many layers do I have to peel to get to her, But after her divorce, or towards the end, I guess, we started to become physical. We started having an affair, physical. It was definitely emotional before, but so we started sleeping together. And this is when I was with my girlfriend at the time, my long distance Brazilian girlfriend. So, this is the whole like downward, spiral, the vortex of despair,
right?
Going down worse and worse into being more and more of a degenerate, I guess, bad behavior. And I kept that from my, girlfriend, and it was just, I wasn't doing anything good. I had no morals, no sense of ethics. I wasn't standing tall for anything. That's the problem back then. I was just going waving. I was looking for love and using my dick as a fucking pointing pointing wand, basically.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Show me where.
Yeah. Show me that it's a compass. Show me where love is.
Okay.
Head north.
So was it different though with this? Was it different with this?
Yeah. So my wife, she's not my spoilers, I guess. But so this friend, we became close, but we bonded over trauma. Right.
Okay.
I let out a lot of my emotional waste from my marriage to Larissa to this friend, and we bonded over that. She has this kind of like nursing, motherly, caretaker kind of type of personality, right? Mm-hmm. So she felt this type of love or this bond over me for that. So I gave her a lot of attention that her husband didn't give her, right? So emotional attention. I was good at that. Let me tell you, women never found me attractive so much physically, but emotionally, I'll give you all the attention. I always very attentive, and and that really created a sense of bonding between us. But as much as we had this bonding, I wanted more. I wanted her to be my girlfriend. I wanted to go on dates with her. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to sleep with her. But she didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to other girls, and then she found out about this, and then she kind of didn't have this trust anymore with me, because she thought she was the only one that I confided in, the only one that was there for me, and she was, but I was talking to other people because I didn't know what would happen next, and she was married, so but this started this sense of, because she had this this sense of like, oh, he's this like perfect little person. And I broke that. And that's something that over time has grown, so now, like, here's girlfriend, I'm sleeping with my friend Vanessa, and am hiding it from my long distance girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And I'm asking her not to tell her and all this stuff. So I'm even telling her, hey, I'm not a good boyfriend, lie to my girlfriend for me, or don't tell her or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm teaching her that you should not date me. So this rift that initially was, a crack is now grown at this stage. So, but we still are in a relationship. We still grow, we become more physical and whatever. And eventually my long distance girl and I, we break up, we became end of a season. We broke up, whatever. But, I still wanted Vanessa, and but even though we'd sleep together more and more, she's living with me too. My mom and I, she was living in our spare bedroom. Mm-hmm. She was paying rent and everything, but she still had this distance. She was single now, so she was going out on dates herself. She was exploring. She didn't want to be tied down in another relationship. But me being selfish, I was like, well, hey, now you're free and I'm free. Let's do it. But she wasn't ready. But me being selfish, I kept chasing her, kept trying to, I guess they call it love bombing, emotional bombing, or some shit now, or whatever. But, that's just being attentive back in my day. What did you find so different about her? What made you want to hang on for so long and pursue her for so long? Well, she's definitely my Moby Dick, I guess. I didn't kiss her for like so long in our relationship. Just kissing her, was like the biggest experience, months in the making. And then sleeping with her, that was like months more. Mm-hmm. So, and then I don't know. And it's just this bond. I mean, now, now who I am now, I could tell you what it is more clearly than I could then, but I believe now it was, like I said, it was this nursing thing, like this motherly love. Okay. So I think that was the love I really resonated with more than anything else. And it was this caring, patient, kind of like a warm blanket love, kind of wrap yourself around it. And I never felt that before, ever. Not even, from anybody. So that was something it just never went away. But over time, in my pursuit of her, I really sullied the water a lot. Okay. And that love, that warm love really kind of became this really raggedy, dirty, soiled blanket. It's still a blanket. It still kind of warms you, but it's definitely not there. What's happened? Well, so eventually her and I, we became, it's weird because the show and my relationships kind of mirrored each other, right? I was married, divorced, my rebound, followed that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it followed my kind of affair with that.
Okay.
And then that to my eventual relationship with her, and then my marriage with wifey number 2, Vanessa. So, but it's like, it was like, we didn't get together because we wanted to. We just got together because we were there, and just, I felt like it was the next thing to do. I mean, if you ask her now, she'll probably say I forced her into it. Right. I think she would. Like, I do believe that my wife thinks that she is forced into a lot of things.
What made her hang on to you so tight? Because she was there. She didn't want to be, romantically with you to begin with, or whatever. Obviously, she's married at the time. But what did she see in you that she loved or appreciated?
I mean, initially, I think she saw this like pure, innocent soul that needed help. This little baby bird, And then I don't know if she just wanted to recapture that, or I don't know. I was her only friend for a long time as well. Like, she's not really a social buddy. So we definitely bonded over stuff, and we just kept holding on to that for whatever. And things just kept going and going and going. Like I said, like, my divorce, my rebound, the filming, her divorce, it wasn't any time to really think about a relationship. Like, why are we here? Like, do we like each other? Like, do we have plans? What are our plans? I mean, I was still living with my mother, like throughout this whole process as well. So I didn't even have plans to like live with Vanessa, or anybody. I didn't have plans to really do anything with anybody. I just thought moving girl, and the rest would be happily ever after.
So I want to talk later more after we get kind of your story out there on the table. But what was your mom's role in the development of your relationship or your marriage now? I mean, what's been her?
My mother's always been in my life, whether I was first day elementary school or last day graduation college, my marriage, or every day in between, every second in between, really. She just was kind of there. And she's always been there. She's always been very helpful. She's always been very dotting over me. I guess they call them helicopter moms to some degree, but it's hard as an adult, being an adult, living with your parent. Definitely, it's impossible, because your parent, at least from my experience, my parent, they always want to feel this higher functionality over you. That's just how I don't know if it's just something that, they grow into or whatever, but my mother especially, I feel like she exists as this personality of higher functioning. So for us to coexist together in the same environment, she has to feel better about herself. And so her way's the best way, basically. The way she cooks or cleans, always, I am the son, the boy don't know too good. So, and that's reflected onto the marriage. I mean, if I'm living with my wife or whoever, the way my mother treats me is, just puts me in my space, and my wife's just going to be like, well, one, I want to do that, so she gets denied that pleasure. And then two, she already thinks of you as a piece of like lower thing. She's not gonna think of you as an equal, and
she's used this inferior, weaker person or something. And this is the dynamic between you and your mom, and you lived together at the time.
Yeah, we lived together. I lived with my mother my entire life. I mean, there's little spots here and there that I didn't, but it just never occurred to my mother to not live with me. I mean, especially after my father died.
Okay, so I'm curious about what went into that. I mean, as a young adult, where most people are parting ways with their parents and doing their own thing and whatever, what was different about your journey there?
Well, there are a lot of things in my life that kind of derailed me, if you will. So originally I lived, so when I was 5, I lived in Sacramento, California.
Okay.
Went to school there until I was 10, moved to Seattle, Washington area. But when I moved there, I didn't really jive with the school so much. So I was homeschooled. So I didn't even finish elementary school at all. If you look at some degrees, I'm actually an elementary school dropout.
Wow.
Yeah, I 5th grade. I didn't finish the 5th grade, technically. So, and this is back, how old am I?
1995.
Yeah. 90. Yeah. Really. 97, 95. Right. So like this is like before everyone had a internet even like this is before AOL.
Right.
Even. Right. You got mail? Nope. But, so my mother tried, she went to the, back then homeschool connections and drive to people that had, supplies, resources, get textbooks and all that stuff. And she kind of helped me with my teacher more or less for that, but she wasn't the most academic person, I don't know her own academic background, I don't know exactly what she accomplished in life, but teaching it just wasn't something that she was particularly great at. So my interest in that varied over the years. And so more or less just kind of taught myself things, eventually I did get a computer. I got AOL finally, thank God. And I just kind of spent most of my early years on the internet, just fucking off, playing games. I never went back to school at all. Eventually I got my GED and then I got my shit together and went to school, but that was in my 20s, early 20s. Teens and everything.
So you dropped out of 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, why were you being taught at home? What was the thought about that at that point?
Well, my mother was trying to get me into the next class because I was actually ahead, believe it or not. I was bored and I just didn't bond well with other kids. I mean, looking back, it should have just been like, tuck it, deal with it, it'll get better. But my mother, just for whatever reason, didn't like me crying, couldn't, whatever. People they want to help you, they make decisions. So, and this was a thing that was going on for a couple of weeks and it's just back and forth. And just, I guess because it would have pushed me into the next grade, like middle school. So they didn't want to do that. So my mother thought, well, if you're not going to push him into the next grade, I'll take him out and train him myself.
Was your dad around at this point or what?
Yeah. So my dad was around, but so this is a thing that I didn't learn about until more recently in my life, but my dad was very much a passive person in his own life, especially in relationships, as well as like just raising me in general. Like my mother and him would fight a lot about me specifically and their own problems. But, I was definitely used as a weapon during the proxy wars,
tug of war type of thing.
Yeah. When
you say he was passive with you, does that mean just not as involved, or what all do you mean? Like,
oh, so check this shit out. My father was primarily raised by his mother.
Okay.
So my father never met his biological father.
Okay.
He's a result of basically what you call a one night stand nowadays, but this is back in the, late 40s or whatever.
Right.
So, my mother was, So my father's mother, my grandmother, raised my father by herself for a couple of years. But back then that was very much different story. It was very much frowned upon, socially and economically speaking. It was just hard. So she arranged for my father to be adopted, open adoption.
Wow. Okay.
So he was adopted by this older couple in Tahoe called the Johnsons. Spoilers. So my surname comes from that adoption.
Oh, wow.
So my father's birth surname is not Johnson.
Okay.
So he was adopted. He was 8 years old though, approximately. So he's already kind of like grew up a bit. But this couple, the Johnsons, they were like, they're older, like in the 50s, 40s. They already had kids in their 20s who moved on.
Right.
But they were wealthy, I guess. They were involved in early boating, public recreational boating that was going on. So he spent his years there. But like I said, his brothers were older. But so he had his mother. Basically, his mother would visit him on the weekends or whatever, come out and see him. And that was his life, basically, living with this older couple and then having his mother visit him periodically. And when he turned 18, he was out the door and he lived his life. But so, and I mean, I don't want to, I guess he never really had a strong male influence in his life.
Right.
Right. Like he never had that type of, just, it was his mother. And then it was just this older couple that, probably didn't really have that type of energy or type of devotion to him as much as he might have needed. So him growing up, I mean, he was married 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he only had 1 child, as far as he knew. He said that was the proudest thing he ever did, was only having 1 child out of 5 marriages. My mother was
was she the 5th?
Yes, my mother was the lucky number 5, I guess.
Okay.
But I think he always wanted a sense of family and being belong of something. I don't know if not having a typical family growing up or whatever, but I definitely think he wanted to recreate that. He wanted to feel a sense of belonging, and he didn't know how to do that. And I think he, like me now, just wanted to feel love. So you have someone that will give you love at whatever price. You do whatever. You're kind of submissive to that. It doesn't matter, And my father I think he taught me that, honestly. It runs in the family or whatever. So at the end of the day, my mother definitely, I felt like, was the last say in raising me. So he just stepped aside.
So he wasn't that involved with you in terms of, day-to-day play and stuff like that. And
my father was a little bit older, so we didn't really have a lot of. We go outside, play catch here and there. We play actually a lot of video games. That was our thing.
Okay.
A lot. We're playing like Super Mario and racing games and shit. But he worked a lot. He had a very stressful job. He was in commissions. He sold cars and then RVs and stuff. So it was kind of stressful because we didn't have a lot of money, right? It's like sometimes he didn't make any money. So it was kind of like, so that was a lot of points of tension for my parents. So, and when he did have free time, he didn't really want to do anything. I guess now you call it like introverted,
right.
Depression, you have words for these type of things, but back then, you don't talk about it. You have whatever crap you deal with.
But he would go to work but he was kind of spent after that and didn't have a lot of energy for home life after.
Between the stresses of the job, commuting, coming home, he'd eat, watch his television or whatever. We maybe watch a movie, hang out, but but even when we traveled, like I went a lot of vacations with my mom only. He didn't like to fly at all. He would not fly. Like, he refused to fly. He had a little bad experience growing up with
some phobia or something.
Yes, his stepbrother, one of them. He was a pilot, and he was in an airplane. Took my dad up. He was like 10 years old or something, and he was kind of doing tricks and shit. And scared him. He would not get on an airplane ever after that. So
wow.
So he was afraid of heights. So basically, he couldn't even be like in a hotel, like on the top floor. He'd freak out and shit. So
he wouldn't go on trips. What about other things? Weekend barbecues.
Sometimes. My parents were not social butterflies at all. Like they didn't go on dates at all. They didn't even growing up. I never saw them go on dates. They didn't have any friends. They didn't host parties. I thought that was normal. What the fuck do I know? But looking back, that to me, that's not really.
Why do you think they didn't? Was that just introversion? Was it just being private people? Was there?
It's weird because I look at pictures of my parents before they had me, and I see them, out socializing, drinking. Well, my dad did stop drinking when I was born. He was an alcoholic. So he went. So I was a couple years old, and he went to AA.
Okay,
got some help, and actually he went to Scientology.
Oh wow!
That was back before it was cool, though. But he came home with a copy of Dianetics, and I was like 5 years old. But I helped him get off the sauce, though. I don't know how, but he went in there in San Francisco, Oakland, or something at the time. He didn't have any money, and they helped him out for some reason. So that I don't know if my father just needed the sauce to be like the social butterfly. I feel like
little liquid courage.
Yeah, and he kind of had a falling. Like after I was born, he because of his drinking, he was a manager, at a car dealership or whatever. But because of his drinking, he got fired. We lost a bunch of stuff. We lost our house, lost whatever we had. So we had to move into like this, essentially like converted garage. Right, I was like 4 years old at the time, living in Hayward, Oakland area down there. So it was like my dad or my mother's friend. It was like this like ghetto apartment. Not really, but so my father was unemployed. My mother's working at like, the diner as a waitress or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I've just felt like my father and my mother just had this from that point on, they always had these fights, like he wasn't providing enough. My mother always, I mean, now I know she has a sense of security problem. Like she always needs to feel like I mean, as humans do, obviously we all need to feel a sense of security, but I do feel like she worries a lot and she projects a lot, and she always worries about money, and she's not, and my parents are never great with money. They're not, investors or anything. They blow money as soon as they get it. So they fought a lot about money. And growing up, I always absorbed that. I was on the corner, like the tree, and they worry about money or they worry about whatever. And then I was just there absorbing that influence. And because they weren't sociable, of course, I wasn't sociable. So, and then I lived in an apartment most of my childhood where we couldn't go outside. Kids were frowned upon from going outside to play, We didn't have a yard or anything.
Right.
And most of my friends lived at other places. My mother was like, you're not going to go ride a bike or anything. She's not going to do anything.
Just too scared.
So that was another thing. I have this overprotective mother. So growing up, I was always, if I wanted to go anywhere, mother would come with me,
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's something you always want as a kid. I want to go hang with my friend or whatever. I don't know. It was just this antisocial thing that we kind of had. We would just hang out as a family. And then eventually, as time went on, my father stopped participating. Like we'd go to like the zoo or the camping or whatever, or like my father and my mother and I. But then as I got a little bit older, early teens or whatever, my father just stopped participating more and more. I don't know if I don't know if it was a stress of life or marriage or whatever. I think just life kind of ate him to death.
I bet they both had some trauma that, affected their comfort level just being out in public even. That's one of the things that goes along with that is just like hypervigilance and fear. And if they had difficult things, if he's going through foster care or whatever he had to, whatever was happening for him, and then your mom, I think you mentioned that, she had a tough existence too.
Oh yeah. My mother definitely had a tough life, both her and my father. So I think that just kind of reflects in both of them. And growing up, I think I was imprinted on me. I think I spent most of my life growing up feeling emotions of fear or anxiety or loss because of my parents, just because that was the only thing on the flavor. Like my parents they never kissed each other in front of me. They never hugged each other.
Wow. So,
I mean, I get hugged by my mother or whatever, but it always was this fake thing to it. I don't want to say fake, but it was just like this like surface level thing.
Like they were roommates or something.
Yeah, it was surface. Yeah, they were roommates. And even like the way my parents would show love to me was kind of like that level too. Like it was very much like, I love you, Cole, whatever. Here's a toy. Of course I love you. Even like the hugs and stuff, it was just very much felt like it was very much superficial. Yeah, exactly. So like you have to imagine these to me feel like very not real emotions, or emotions that are very thin. And then you have these very much crying sense of fear about money, about
your mom,
about my mom. Yeah. My mom crying about being lack of like month rent,
right?
Or my dad worrying about not being able to sell RVs, or my dad's problem with marriage, or whatever, right? So these are the real emotions I felt day in, day out, and I had no escape from it because and then like I said, I was homeschooled, so I just this is just an extension of my life. Even as a teenager, I didn't go out, I didn't have any friends, I didn't hold a girl's hand until I was 17 years old, 18 years old. I don't know.
So, man, there was all this like not talking. People just didn't do it as much back in those days. But it sounds like your family was pretty private. We didn't really deal with the emotional stuff. And now you're going out, you're talking about your life, your relationships, your sex life, every single part of your world. And even her too, right? She was on the show.
Oh, my mother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's funny because like when I went to college, it was me kind of reintroducing myself to society, right? Because I hadn't really done anything. I dropped out of school when I was, elementary school. And in between then and my college, when I was 23, I didn't really do a whole lot besides stay at home. So me going back to school was me learning how to be sociable. So I'd learn to be sociable, to learn about, who am I to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Do I live with my mother? I something even there, I was not something I wanted to talk about. Like I never told anyone I lived with my mother. I didn't say anything about my mother. I never introduced my mother to any of my friends I had in my life.
I would say I'm curious about that, about why, because maybe nowadays it would be seen differently, but I wonder what, just shame, embarrassment.
Yeah,
what I thought that you big boys don't do that. I mean, what?
Everything you said, shame, embarrassment. I didn't want, I mean, I knew it was a weakness. I mean, or perceived as a weakness, I suppose. And it was definitely, I guess, I mean, now looking back, I can tell you it was just, I wasn't on sure footing with myself and I couldn't articulate as to why. I've always lived with my mother in my entire life. And I knew it wasn't something that I wanted, but I didn't know why I didn't want it. If it was the only thing I ever knew. So, but when I was starting to, making new friends in my, 30s or 20s, I just didn't talk about my mother. I just didn't. I was just a very private person, didn't talk about anything in my life. But then the show comes along.
And they see you live together. You got the cats.
And then everything's exposed. My mother, we had one car. My mother drives me to work. Right. That's something I didn't want to tell people. Mm-hmm. We shared a vehicle because I didn't have any money. My mother didn't have any money. So you're
just making life work, but there's all this fear of how people would interpret that or something.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I know that's not, I mean, it's a weakness to me. I felt weakness. Therefore it would be perceived as a weakness to other people. Me not having my independence, my own freedom, my own liberties, having the clutch, aid, assistance, burden of whatever,
Did you ever try to break out? Did you ever almost do it? Did you?
Almost did it.
And tell me about that.
I was graduating college. Okay. I was 29 years old. This is very before, I guess. And I had an opportunity to move to California, Los Angeles area, to work at a company to work in Call of Duty with my best friend.
Wow.
It was an internship though. So I wasn't getting paid a lot of money. It was, so the idea was I'd go live with him, on his couch or whatever and commute with him. And, after the period I'd be hired on potentially and whatever.
Right.
But, my mother wasn't working at the time. So I had to get a job that paid well and she didn't have a job or prospects and she didn't make enough money to really support herself in a lifestyle that she wanted. That she was comfortable with. She didn't want to have a roommate or live in a subsidized housing or live with family members. She liked having her own house. Even though she shared the house with me, it was still her house, because she was on the lease. She had a key. She had, whatever, liberties. So I tried, I talked about her going away and she's like, oh, go ahead. It's fine. But she never said not to go, but she never gave me a reason to go. It was just the lack of encouragement, it was just this obligation that was there, but she always found a way to not let me go. And I just never left.
What I'm hearing there is that could have been silence, even maybe just the feeling you were so attuned to her, maybe almost kind of, it sounds like almost kind of surrogate, husband or something in a way.
Yeah.
And just meaning that that was the attachment for her, that you were her person really in life. You're the one she hugs. She's not hugging your dad or whatever, or is he gone by that time?
Yeah. So my father died. I was 23, 22 years old. My 20s, basically, my mother and my mother worked and I went to college basically. That was the deal, so.
Which totally makes sense, which totally seems reasonable and totally healthy and normal.
Actually, we were pretty much disconnected. We really didn't interact too much. She'd take me to school. Even then, I didn't learn how to drive till I was, 28 years old or so. So
it's all right.
Yeah, I was a late bloomer in
life. Finally got there.
I tried to learn my dad first, right? But then I got a lot of anxiety. And then later on with my mother, and let me tell you, I cannot drive with my mother. She's all
that's why she was driving you around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? I had a sense of anxiety driving, and my mother kind of amplified that when I was with her. Mm-hmm. And instead of being a source of trying to fix that, it was just something that was left unsaid. So what happened? Well, my mother just drove me around for 20 years. You know what I mean? It's just, you know what I mean? It's just, that's fine. You know, like even though as a person, I should be like, no, that's not fine. And eventually I did. And I had a friend that taught me independently, and I got my license independently, and I surprised my mother, hey, I got my license, you know, but, so that's what I mean by the lack of encouragement, lack of push,
she was not pushing you out of the nest. She, her words might have been, you know, kind and affirming in a way, but you knew really she didn't want you to go.
No,
you felt she did not want you to go.
No, not at all. And especially after my father passed, you know, she was comfortable and she had a partner. She had someone there to, now I think it's just about security, you know, not being homeless. And I mean, no one wants that, but at the same time, I think she has this doubt in herself where she can't provide for herself. And that's just something that she grew up with or whatever. So she needed the help of primarily of a man, but maybe initially it was her mom or something. But, you know, whether it was a boyfriend or husband or me, she latched on to that anchor. It'd be fine as long as there's someone there with me.
So you didn't go work on Call of Duty. No. You hung around for a while and then
stayed in Seattle.
And that's where you were till you moved to Vegas. You meet Larissa. You're on a show. Yes. 30 million people are looking at your kitchen in your bedroom and your
watching
car.
My mother make me breakfast, take me to work every day.
Okay. Yeah. And so what kind of messaging did you start to get from people? Because, you know, we've done a lot on this show about masculinity, and really the audience and the intended effort here is to help men kind of strengthen themselves and grow up and mature. And I wonder what kind of hate mail and what were people saying to you? Like, oh, mama's boy, what kind of things were...
Mama's boy, that's like one of the better ones. Where do you want to start? Alphabetically, maybe?
Yeah, go for it. Just ramble them.
I mean, there were some nice messages. I'm not going to lie, you know, flattering ones, but, you know, mostly about cats, or mostly I have a certain demographic that loves me.
Okay.
You know? Like, you know, at the
Brazilians, Latinas?
No. Well, maybe, but for bad reasons, probably.
Moms,
or people that just love cats. You know, there's just certain people, certain characteristics that really draw to me.
Moms and cat moms.
Yeah, something like that. But most people look at me and they see someone they don't like, or they see someone that is obnoxious to their own self. I mean, if you look at me, you know, I don't look like a typical person that would date anybody. Like I don't, or someone that would be considered beyond my league.
Yeah, your wife is way hotter than you.
In the last few, well, even before that, I still kind of dated at least above my grade level. I like to think so, to some degree, but definitely after
that's alpha right there. See,
definitely after the television thing. But I don't know. It's just that wasn't ever, it was funny. Like I always knew, you look at me, I knew my weakness, physical weakness, you know, look at me, I have weight problems, loose skin, you know, I got some breast tissue issues here, you know, it mostly, say even growing up, I had weight problems. I grew up, I was like 300 some pounds, and, you know, at one point I ballooned up, ballooned down, ballooned up. I mean, I was like Christian Bale, but not really doing it for a role, just fucking my life up. But, you know, so just emotional eater. So that unfortunately had a bad effect on me. And even still growing up, I never had positive habits, you know, like my dad, you know, he'd do some dumbbells or whatever, but like never exercised, never. So I just never picked up on it, you know, and not going to school. I never like went to gym or whatever. I never fucking took a gym. I don't know what that is, you know, growing up, you know, running around or whatever, bleachers or whatever. So I just never had the body or whatever. And I knew that. I knew I could never attract women physically. So, but emotionally, you know, I can connect with people. At the end of the day, people just want to feel a connection with you. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter what you look like.
I hear women all the time say, 5 times a day, women say, it's not about physical attraction. He's an asshole, or he's whatever, he's this or that. Their complaint about their man is usually not about their looks. You
want to know what it is? It's simple. Women physical attraction, I think, is a reflection or result from emotion. They want to feel certain things, either this connection or this intense, you know, attentive nature that they never felt from somebody, or they want to be like ignored, or they want to like spark some kind of emotion, and that's emotion that you chase, right?
There you go, guys. You single guys out there, seduction 101 right there. Make her feel something and she'll be attracted to you.
Yeah, make her feel something. That's the thing, right? You have to stand out. You have to make her feel something, whatever that is, and then keep her interested that way. And then the attraction will stem from that.
You're a good looking dude. I'm not trying to.
Oh, thank you. I think you're good looking good too. But I'm not going to say I'm like an ogre or a troll should be living under the bridge or the Hoover Dam or something. But, and I definitely feel like I definitely need to take better care of myself. I mean, I've actually lost a little bit of weight since I first started.
You look good, man. You look good.
Yeah.
From when I first met you.
Yeah.
So you were talking about a lot of your fans are these mothering, nurturing types.
Yeah.
Also, too, you said something about Walmart. People recognize you more in Walmart than like higher end stores or whatever. But
yeah,
when the one little episode that I was part of with you guys, like 20 people called me or reached out to me, and I noticed they were the brightest, they're all women, but they were the brightest women I knew. One's a surgeon, one, like attorneys, physician, like people that are just very brilliant people are watching, and they say it's, this is their dirty pleasure, these shows or whatever. But I haven't seen all of those seasons and all those episodes, but it's a fascinating thing. Anyway, we got off track here. What were we talking about? I wanted to go back to with your father's passing. That was, you were early 20s or something.
Yeah,
there?
22.
How did he? Because you mentioned he wasn't that healthy or involved in stuff. How did he?
So my father never took good care of himself. He was overweight. He ate sweets, chocolates. He didn't exercise. He smoked a lot. Before that, like I said, he was an alcoholic. So he was just one train wreck after the next, basically. So one day I went on my day or whatever, and he called me on the phone, and he said he wasn't feeling good and I should come home. And I said, okay. But I was with my girlfriend at the time. We were running errands, and I forgot about it. So at the time, my mother and my father were living in an apartment, and my girlfriend and I were living next door. Basically, I was living not with my mother, but whatever. Right?
Literally next door.
Literally next door. So anyway, so I get the call, and then I just don't think much of it, whatever. And then go on the day, and then I go home, with my girlfriend, and then we go in our apartment and we have dinner or whatever, lunch. I still don't think, I forgot about my dad or whatever. And then I actually go over to the apartment because my girlfriend needed like some like pepper or some kind of something from the house and borrow some kind of something. Mm-hmm. So I go over there, and then on the floor was my dad, and he's dead.
Oh my gosh, you're the one who found him.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I just knew immediately because he's not the right color. By that time he's purple, just unliving color basically.
How much time are we talking here? Like
4 hours maybe. I want to say it was like 11 o'clock is when he called me, and then I didn't check in on him until like 3 or so.
Wow.
I mean, so that was hard, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, to lose your father is hard. To find him in that way is hard. To be involved, and he was calling to say he wasn't feeling it earlier, that's hard. There's layers of like trauma in that.
Yeah. So I blame myself a lot initially for that. Like, what if I just came home? I could have called the paramedics. Or my dad was a stubborn old fuck. Let me tell you, he didn't like doctors. Whatever. He literally, he had a choice to call 911 or call me. He called me. He should have called the ambulance. That was his choice. And unfortunately, I took that as my fault.
Dude,
I fell on that sword for a few months or a few years, I guess. So that was hard to live with. Did
you ever do anything with that? Did you ever come off of that sword? I mean, did you like? It's still there.
Well, I pulled that sword out of me. Like I said, my father had his own choice. He could have called paramedics. He could have done anything himself. He could have said, "Hey, I think I'm having a heart attack. Come home immediately," or whatever. And at the end of the day, I could have done something differently. But and like I said, he didn't take care of himself. He could have gone to doctors more or ate less. but at the time, let me tell you, I think I was at such an emotional deficit between everything in my life that I would take on negative emotions just to feel things. And that's something that I've always done. So the passing of my father, given it, oh shit, I can feel this unending guilt of my father's passing and I'm directly responsible. That's like a whole months of feelings I can absorb and feel like shit, but it's something. And that's just something that I just naturally collected. And it's just that's just how I lived my life, unfortunately. And now that I'm older, I don't do that, but I'm finding that there's not a lot there anymore.
Man, holy cow. I can't even imagine that. I wonder if you're, if that piece of if those facts went into the ongoing relationship with your mom, you know, so now she's a widow. She's really alone. She's
a widow.
Vulnerable in many ways, financially and everything else.
And she grew up in a time when women were not independent. Like she wanted to be like a cop or something. She was frowned upon, you know, don't be a housewife, don't have aspirations in life, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, she just didn't or could not feel like she could take on the burden of having her taking care of herself or being by herself. I don't think she ever was by herself. I think she kind of her and her mom were very close growing up. They worked together. They even shared an apartment together. I think they were actually really close. Probably. I think they were best friends. And I think my mother wanted a daughter, maybe.
Well, in either way, that's what love was. Spend all your time together, become best friends, right? That was her modeling of
that was her
parenting,
love.
and that was what, you know, she thought that was supposed to be.
Yeah. So she said, well, that's how mom loved me. That's how I love my boy, but that's not what her boy wanted. Or maybe it was best for him. Like my first day at kindergarten, right? Like I cried, right? Like, oh my God, first day. Most parents, I would say, oh, deal with it, son. You know, I'll come back later. My mother says, I'll volunteer. She became like a house mother, PTA volunteer.
Right.
Every day. Like she didn't like have a career. She didn't have friends. She didn't hobbies. You know, she didn't, nothing. You know, for her, take me to school, volunteer at the school, be around me. This is until, you know, my primary school or elementary school years, up until I dropped out.
And you would look at that on the outside and say, well, that's kind of cute. You know what I mean? Look how much she loves her boy, like how involved. She's very engaged. She's going to the school. She's participating. And that's all good when we're talking about kindergarten. But it just, that was how it really was all the way through.
Yeah. And that's on the show too. And people, it's funny because a lot of fans say now, like, oh, I love the relationship you have with your mother. They think we're super tight. Like we share everything together, you know, like we're best friends. And the opposite is actually true. We're not. We don't get along at all. We have nothing in common. Everything's very awkward. We don't have any relationship whatsoever, unless I'm more like, can I get you something, mother? Do you need anything? You know, and that's the extent of my relationship with her. And so it's like, growing up, I think she was just always attentive to me. She felt like she had to be there to help me. And that was our relationship. And as I got older, I kind of took on more of that role.
It switched where now you became the caretaker.
Yeah.
Was there any like part of the timeline when that started to happen?
Oh, I definitely, last few years coming to Vegas, she didn't have, you know, her current income. She has her, you know, retirement from my dad or whatever, Social Security, which is not a lot, right?
Right.
So if she had more, she'd be gone. She'd be like, you know, smell you later, kid.
So your being together all the time was just a matter of kind of convenience. It just made sense. It's almost like husbands and wives who stay living together for a year after their divorce because it's just cheaper. They need to do it that way. Essentially. You just had to do it for the practical sense of it.
Well, yeah. So there's that. There's the economical sense of that. Actually, if you want to go even more crazy, I don't know how much time we have with that, but my one relationship I had, actually most of my relationships, there was this girlfriend I had. This is before Larissa I had. She was living with my mother and I. This is after my father passed. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in love with her. This is after like a year or so living together and whatever. And she wanted to get married and, you know, start a family or whatever, but I just wasn't feeling it. And I was in school, but the girl, she was working, so she was subsidizing some of the bills and everything. And finally we just had this huge fight, and, you know, and my mother freaked out. Even though like why is my mother freaking out that my girlfriend and I are fighting, right? Because she's afraid that the money from my girlfriend will go away because she'll move out because we broke up, and it will be enough money to live there, and she'll be homeless.
Wow. So that you're speaking to something that, I mean, that sounds ridiculous. That sounds awful, but really it's coming down to this sense of security that she was very sensitive to feeling secure and like everything's going to be okay in terms of our, like the needs, you know, food, shelter.
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to get along. That was important.
Right. And it's like, I talked to my mother before. I said, I don't love this person. I don't want to live with her. And she told me basically, well, we need her money. You know, think about that. Think about your security. Think about staying in school, you know, whatever. Don't think about how I feel. So basically my mother's telling my face, what you feel doesn't matter. Her sense of security or fears of being homeless is more important than my lack of love or interest in this woman. So I have to pretend that I feel something or love and live this half lie, eating at me every day, so that my mother doesn't freak out and be crazy at me. So I have this weird sense of, I don't know, obligation, pain.
Yeah.
struggle.
I mean, that sounds like a pivotal experience. When you hear her say that, that's both an indicator of what she had needed and felt all along. And then also in the future, that was maybe the expectation. And then you went, 10 more years doing that or something?
Yeah, I did that for a couple more years of that. But it was always kind of like that, right? It was always like, do it because there's no, like, you wouldn't want your mother homeless. Like my mother could live by herself anytime. Like right now, she could, but it's just not there. Like her like, she's always pigtailed off my life, whether like she drives me to school all day. She volunteers. She goes to work so that I could go to school, like college, right? But then after that ended, her role became, well, I'm retired now, and that's fine. But even still, like her life kind of just stopped. She didn't have any hobbies, no friends, nothing to take over from her responsibility of being my mother or being the higher functioning person in my life.
So even though you're saying you didn't have the greatest friendship or whatever, do you think she leaned on you? She just needed you to fill some time and needed you to be a companion in a way? Like,
oh yeah, I was whatever my mother needed. It's like, it's funny. A lot of my friends or my interests, and even though me on the show, like my mother's on the show now. She has her own show. She's season 2 on The Single Life. I was on season 1, you know, but now she started out as like this secondary guest character. They didn't even know they wanted to have her on the show. And she became very popular. It's a testament to her character, but she became her own character. But it's like, she's always just kind of just grabbed on to whatever I was doing. Like, or my relationship with my ex-wife, like they became friends. Like she's always kind of just insert herself in whatever I'm doing. Or if I have friends, then she talks to them, and then she kind of puts me down in front of them to feel good about herself, because she needs to feel like she's a higher functioning person, and I'm just the boy. I always make a mess. I don't know much, basically, is the relationship that my mother and I have. That's how our interaction is in public or public facing in reality, basically.
man, so where does it stand now between you two?
There's not much. I'm not going to lie. Like, we go back and forth. Well, it's back and forth. I definitely feel like we don't have a particular good place. We exchange texts, you know, we have dinner here and there, but we don't have a relationship. There's nothing meaningful there. I can tell her, you know, I'm depressed with my work, or I'm having a hard time in my life or whatever. But she won't have anything to share with me I don't know. It's not that she just can't relate or can't like she says she's sorry, or, you know, or she feels bad, or, you know, I'm sure I'll figure it out. It's just, there's just nothing there. And I don't know why. I don't know even how to articulate it in a way. It just feels like it's like you're talking to someone that's just existing.
I often talk with people about, you know, whether or not a person, if someone's not doing something we need, are they doing that because they can't or because they won't? You know, they can or they won't. They either can and refuse to. They're withholding this thing and they're keeping it from you. And I think almost no one does that. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason people don't act right and do what we think they should is because many times they can't.
Sure.
They don't know how. They've never said those things. They haven't really, you know, and I can just maybe picture with her, she may not have just developed the ability to engage in that way. You seem super willing to talk. You're super willing to be open and share your feelings, really dig into things or whatever. I don't know if all these bad women have taught you that or what, but
I think I spend a lot of times hiding myself from the public. You know, like I said, I was kind of homeschooled. I wasn't going out. So it's kind of just, I didn't, you know, even when I went to college, I didn't talk about myself. I was very private and didn't want to talk. But then the show, I just let everything out. Everything, the floodgates, everything, go.
See, man, I think I wonder if there's some healing nature to that. I've actually had ideas about, you know, doing some of the work that I do with guys and record it and, I don't know, put it on YouTube or whatever. But anyway, I think people would be interested in the selfie generation that we're in, where people like to see themselves. They like to show their life. I think it allows people to be open. So you were this private person. You didn't really go anywhere, do anything. You and your mom and your dad were all very private. There was, and now all of a sudden there's 30 million people listening to your conversations.
Yeah. Exchanging my dick pics around.
Seriously. So man, I just have a billion questions, but one here is, was it helpful to open up and let all of that stuff be seen? Like you're saying, you were ashamed that your mom would drive you to school, to work. But now they're showing this on the TV.
Yeah.
So was there something about releasing all that shame? I mean, you had to be shameless kind of to do that.
Yeah. I'm very shameless, let me tell you. But no, 100%. Like, you have no idea what it's like. It's like a burden. You know, you have literally this cross you bear, you hold on to it. And it's something you carry for, in my case, my entire life, you know, and it's a sense of my life is wrong. I'm less than someone that should be known, and I don't want anyone to know me. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, thankfully now, because of the show, it just all came out. I guess I initially didn't really think all the way through in terms of that, like letting everything out, you know, but one thing led to another. And then once you have one thing out, you might as well just keep going. But I did, it's, you know, it's like you let it all go. Once it's out there. Like, yeah, there's this, I remember my first picture, my video of my, my member went out there, right? Everyone were making fun of it or whatever, but they can only make fun of your dick so many times. And then after
there's only so many words they can use for that.
There's only so many words in the English alphabet or any alphabet that can articulate what's wrong with my dick. And let me tell you, I've read them all.
Oh,
so it's like, you know, one, you're not going to shock me with anything, and two, I'm flattered that people have this interest. Even unfortunately, it's just, you know, not glowing compliments. Most people will not give you a compliment; they'll give you an insult. And, you know.
So there you have it, guys. You want to heal your shame? Just put some dick pics out, and you'll get over it quick.
No, but like it's true. You know, if you lay it all out, people. I think this is also what really helps a lot of people's health problems in life. Like, you know, you're ashamed of things. You know, you don't feel. You know, other self-esteem issues or your life, and you just hide things. You hold on to things, and it's just something you carry. It's like having the extra pounds, you know. I got extra pounds on me. It's harder to breathe. you shed those pounds, suddenly you have all this more stamina, you feel more energetic, you want to go outside, suddenly everything feels better. And that's how it is, 100%. I will say this, not doing the show has helped me in many ways, not in terms of being more famous or having more monies or anything, or it's just therapy. It's been therapy for me. It's allowed me to examine myself, literally pausing, repeat,
Like, what did you say? Like, I didn't realize you were saying that. Your conversations, everything, you get to go back and watch. That's what I mean about, I think there must have been some real inner value way beyond notoriety and money and all that.
It's even more than that, really. Like, I was going through my rebound, my girlfriend at the time, I was having an affair with my friend. So I was in this sticky honeypot, three-way triangle of lust and lies and deceit, great television. But, when I was filming it, the producers, they'd be like, why are you doing this? Why did you lie? Why do you tell your girlfriend you love her? Why did you lie to her? It's just, and over again, like, it's just something like you do a pickup scene, like do over and over again, do another scene. Like, it's like always question, why this, why this, why this, why this? And it's just something that over the course of several weeks or months, I mean, now at this point, years, it's just, why did I do this? Why did I marry her? Why did I lie to her? Why am I this way? Why do I let my mother drive me around? Why do I do any of this stuff? Like I said, I lived my whole life one way, very isolated. That's the only way you know how to live. You never see corners in your life. You don't have any depth perception. You don't know any difference.
So isolation still?
No. Well, now I'm kind of a hermit, lately, but definitely all my secrets are out there, in the public. I don't hide anything anymore. I don't have anything. I'm boring now. Let me tell you, even though I'm on television and all this stuff.
But what about the occasional, you're upset with someone, you got to, talk it over with a buddy, you go have a beer with somebody. I mean, do you have, that's just a big part of our message is that men need men. We need, best friends. We need little tribes of.
Oh yeah.
Someone told me recently, I shouldn't say tribe anymore since I'm not native, but anyway,
definitely need a pod.
Yes. A group of guys, a gang, some guys to kind of like that have your back.
Yeah. Fortunately I've had, since moving to Vegas, I've had several opportunities to bond, to make friends. I have this lunch group that I meet. They're all Vegas locals, a bunch of, locals. They're a bunch of typical Vegas local men, they're actually older than I am. So it's kind of, I've always got along with people older than I am. I don't know why. So we meet once a week, have lunch, they all bullshit about their entertainment lives, and I'm like, I just sit there and just listen and just enjoy it. Cause it's just, and just because they are very much typical, like manly men type of stuff, performers or whatever. So it's kind of, it's just nice having that type of perspective, the type of exposure. I'm not used to that. In addition to that, I do go to therapy, and then outside of that, I do have this group of men that I meet every other week at night. And it's kind of like this therapy, kind of like check-in session.
Like a meeting about your life. Like
a meeting, how are we doing? What are we doing right now? What's the problem? What can we do? And just having this thing where you can go and present, like a forum, really, honestly.
Yeah. And
people listen. I think a lot of people get crazy in life and frustrated and they give up when they don't have anybody that listens to them. So having the opportunity, the chance in life to have a group of friends, men in my case, listen to problems that I just never got exposure to. Growing up, I was always, my mother was always one that was around, or, I was never really had men in my life, strong men in my life, or any type of influence in my life at all. That's why I'm back basket case, really. So now having that balance has definitely benefited me a lot.
So I want to hit this really hard for a few minutes here, and we'll wrap up before too long, but I just want to really hit just the exact things you're talking about: masculine development, the development of your male identity, the strong things that you did maybe pick up from your dad, what kinds of things you wish you had done more of. And then even now, what kind of direction do you think your development as a man needs to go?
I think the first thing in my path or course towards manhood is learning to love myself. The love I always chased, either with my mother or a woman, was always the love I should have been giving to myself. So just being more appreciative, acknowledging my own accomplishments in life is something that I've been trying to do to feel better about myself.
Okay.
And also just having more ethics, sense of, like I'm married now. I'm taking that very seriously. I'm not fucking around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off social media. I'm not talking to girls. I'm taking that very seriously. It has a lot of weight to me.
Mm-hmm.
So since it has weight to me, it's very important to me. I'm trying to build that. So having things like of that sort, shy away from, earthly temptation, surface level, instant gratification thing. Those things are very bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, at the end of the day, it's just filling my emotions with, like I said, I used to gather up negative emotions just to have things inside. Now it's, well, what can I do to generate real emotions for myself?
Okay.
Right. Like my accomplishments, even if they're minor, like building up myself and, starting with just making your bed in the day or doing something at work or just as much as I can. And then just reinforcing that, and honestly, just finding my boundaries with myself. Like I've just always been tagged, thrown around in whatever direction to get that love, to chase that next fix.
You do anything for some attention.
Do anything. Here's my dick. Here, I'll tell you I love you. I'll be your errand boy or whatever, dot it over you. Just give me love. And, not understanding my boundaries. And I do believe confidence is really a reflection of understanding your boundaries or lack thereof. So
interesting.
I think that's part of being more masculine or more confidence in yourself, more alpha. It's just being more confident in yourself and knowing yourself. And that's all connected to the love and everything that you should be doing for yourself. Because if you're relying on other people for that, then you're not the master of your own destiny.
Man, that's awesome. Just learning to love yourself. One of the programs that I really like, I won't get into their whole program, but their solution to this set of problems that they say people have is to become your own loving parent. Become your own dad, become your own loving parent, say the things to yourself that you needed said to you. Say the things that you wish a loving parent would be like for you right now. And it sounds like this love. And wait, what was that? You said confidence is a reflection of your boundaries. That is so profound. I'm going to have to study that a little bit and think about that. But that is, dude, confidence is a reflection of your boundaries. What does that mean? That's so killer. I love it. I think it's right. It's big.
It's something. But,
I'm going to write a book about that. So
yeah, you can take that one.
Trademark.
Just put me in your intro somewhere. Name drop me. Misspell my name. Yeah, I chased a lot of, I just never grew up. When I stopped going to school, I stopped my path towards being an adult or independent human, I guess. Mm-hmm. I just kind of froze, and that's what it was. My mother drove me to school then, and she drove me to work in my 30s. That was it. And it wasn't until getting my own confidence, wanting to get out of that situation, going to get my GED, going to college, and then, all that really, I guess, just got me out of that, woke me up.
You're kind of a miracle of a guy. I'm telling you, you dropped out of school in 5th grade.
I'm also a preemie. I was born.
Oh gosh, preemie.
I was an incubator for like a whole month.
Oh, okay. So already we got low birth weight. We got premature birth. He's in the NICU for a long time. Yeah. We're in an incubator.
Yeah.
You've really done some cool things, man. You have a wonderful wife right now.
She's great. You're
taking strides in your career. You've been on TV for 5 freaking years.
It's crazy. It just doesn't stop.
And and that has helped you live in some way. I mean, that's been beneficial, not just for something cool to do, but you're saying it's helped you with your emotional healing, putting that stuff out there. It's made you reflect on who you are. So what's the relationship like with your mom these days?
there really isn't much of a relationship. You know, when we're together, we either don't have much come out of it, or we just argue. Like, it just seems like, I think we're just tired of being together like this. We're tired of the old routine. We need to change it, and we don't know how to get out of it, because it's like a balloon that's about ready to pop. You know, all this life of tension. You know, I'm sure she wants more. She doesn't want to always be my mother, known to be as my mother. And I don't always want her having to take care of me, you know? So something's going to happen. It's going to pop, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I hope that you two can, you know, just talk and have some conversations, and maybe what you end up with is just recognizing how she gets to become the person that she has become. You know, your story, I don't know if this stuff is out there anywhere else publicly, but some of the things that you've shared here probably are unknown by a lot of those haters out there who just picked on your bad choices and bad behavior and whatever. Some of this stuff, you can see how it could become this way. You can see how, first of all, we're all just human and flawed anyway. And then with some of the things that you talked about in your development, just growing up in your family, some trauma, some grief and loss, just the crazy, you know, guilt that you talked about feeling about that with your dad. And then just kind of out of necessity for both, living with your mom until you were living with your mom until the present day.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's life, you know, it just kind of snowballs into it, you know. I think when people live in this raw emotional state, you know, motion to motion, fear to fear, instant gratification, they don't understand. They don't know how to get out of that. They don't understand to have a life outside of whatever that to take care of the next itch. So there wasn't any evolution in my life for many years, either as an individual or my relationship with any other person. And that's just how my mother is too, right? I don't know what happened, but she kind of stopped, and I stopped, and we just kind of froze for many years.
You started back up again.
I started.
I have the sense that you've got some momentum, like things are happening for you in a good direction. Where are you headed in life right now?
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of lost track of a lot of things, you know, but lately I've been trying to take more charge of my life, you know, trying to feel better about myself, right now I'm looking for work. So that should be exciting, going back into the field. I'm a software developer by day. So, you know, and it's just, you know, I just want to be just take control of my life and start making plans for the future. That's something I really want to be doing. And
set some goals and stuff.
Set some goals and really build, like my relationship with my wife right now is very important. So building on that and seeing where that goes, like just having lasting roots is something very important to me. The most important thing to me right now.
What are her major complaints of you? I know she's got the worries about the women, the womanizing or whatever, but
she don't trust me. She'll never trust me. She thinks I'm talking to 10 girls. She closes the door, goes to the bathroom, and 10 girls come in, give me blowjobs and leave right away, you know? So that does affect us a lot. And I think that's if we can't get over that, it's going to lead to us probably not being together, because that's a foundation to a relationship. It's respect. Trust leads to respect. Respect leads to love and various other things. So she, you know, and it's just we're both kind of lost in our own ways. And I hope we can make it through. You know, I'm really trying. I'm, you know, we're going to therapy and we're trying harder, you know, and I'm in it to win it.
That's good to hear, man. You know, a lot of the guys that have been on our show aren't nowhere near as popular as you. Many of them have done some cool things, but no one is as widely known as you are. But millions and millions of people throughout the world know who this guy is. I feel very lucky to be sitting here with you. But I loved the idea of having you on here because you're in the middle of figuring it out, man. That's the beautiful stuff. I really feel like my dad would say, it takes 40 years to build a man and 40 years to build a marriage.
Damn.
And so the point is, hang on, be cool with yourself. Like you're not even what if we said you're not even a full adult yet? Like you're just beginning, like this is the beginning. Like you're not that far behind. I swear I tell people I became an adult when I was 38.
Yeah.
It's like I was 20 years behind, but it was like, oh, I'm thinking the way I think other adults, you know, like that I graduated high school with, they went on and did really cool, successful things and have been stable and balanced. I wasn't at all. And until I was 38.
Yeah.
And
38, man.
So yeah, you're right around there.
What do you got? 37.
37. Okay. See, so you're.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it just like as you get older, you just want to find things that matter? Like you see those less days ahead, if you will, you know? So like you understand taking a drink or getting a kiss or whatever, they don't have the same type of effects as having a child or having a legacy or having a marriage. Or,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you need, as you get older, you need more things to get you out of bed or get you excited.
What you value changes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it all matters. So I love the way you're maturing. I love the things that you're talking about. I've watched very little of those shows, by the way, but I'm guessing that it's never gotten really deep like this. And I just love that you shared what the person that you really are.
Yeah.
That's who I've felt here today, is just that there's this real you, this real Colt Johnson is a guy who is living life trying to figure things out.
Yeah. As much as people think they know me from television, I'm still very much private. You know, a lot of the stuff I talked about with you today, no one knows. I mean, I never talk about it publicly, really. So, you know, and it's not that I'm, you know, I don't want to talk about myself. It's just, I don't want to bother people. I was like, whatever, it's just my life. Why burden you or anybody else? So, but you know, I just talking, you know, right now it's really liberating, and you're a really good listener, and you know, I really appreciate what you do and the work you do, and you know, and our relationship. You know, I've learned a lot from you, and I'll honestly, I wouldn't be where I am right now without your influence. You know, so I want to thank you for that.
You bet, brother. What is I want to wrap up here with a couple generic questions to ask everybody. What is the most manly alpha thing about you?
The most manly alpha thing about me? I don't know. God, that's a tough question. Shit. I mean, what is that? Like shooting guns or whatever? Or
no, just the most grown up thing, the maturest, the most valuable part of you that is like wisdom, or what's your superpower? What's your special thing that you've developed in that?
I think I don't know if it's thinking. I like to think a lot. I think observing. I think I'm a very good observer of people, you know, and I think that's helped me a lot, especially on television and just, you know, in life in general.
Yeah.
And just having connections with people. I think a lot of people will tell you how they want to be treated, and you just have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I believe that about you. I believe that you're a good watcher of people. You can't seduce all these pretty women without
have something.
Being able to listen a little bit.
Something
That's
like
their
that.
complaint. He never listens, but you're a good listener. So, all right. And then tell me one thing that you really want to push for, say in the next, 90 days. What do you want to make really happen?
I want to hit the gym more. I've been kind of slacking on that. My wife's been dieting, having a healthier diet, and I just kind of want to join in more on that. So next 90 days, I want to push myself a little harder and just try to shed some more pounds and get a little more stamina back.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah.
So, man, it's been so good to have you here today. I feel like we just opened up all these cans of worms. I don't know if we closed all the topics or not, but I just have a ton of respect for you.
Oh, thank you, Brad.
I do, man. I don't know if it's my job that makes me I don't have the judgment that a lot of people have. And so if they said, oh, he cheated on this one with this one, and this is a shady thing, that I just know that that's a person trying to figure it out, you know?
I'm definitely a work in progress, you know, and I people like you definitely have helped me along, and I think I'm on a good path right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Same here, brother. Dude, thank you so much.
Thank
are you
you,
still?
Brad.
I don't see you much on social media anymore.
No,
are you on there?
not too
are you,
much.
Are
No.
you?
I'm trying to stay clean. You know, social media is depressing. It's hard.
Have you
get
like
hooked on
logged
it.
out? Have you totally kind
I
of?
haven't been on Instagram since last year, like November.
So it's not that you're just not posting. You're not even going to.
I'm
it.
not browsing.
Dude,
I'm not doing.
That's the most alpha thing right there.
Oh.
That's I love it. Why?
Well, I mean, after you read a million negative comments about yourself.
I saw your pictures online.
But no, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you feel like your life is part of this algorithm, this whole like media, like what's the topics you care about? Well, let me go check. Like I want to care about the things I care about, and not have things that like just tell me what I should feel or care about. So social media is an easy trap to just stray along your day and have things of talking points and thoughts or feelings for everyone to share with. And once you're out of that system, you start having other things, caring about other things, thinking about other things that no one else cares about. But it feels great.
Dude, that is super cool because you probably have a whole billion bunch of people following you, and there would be plenty of that's a constant supply of dopamine, you know,
Right.
There's messaging and there's all this stuff and there's whatever, and you just opted out.
That's bad too. That's a lot of bad chances, bad influences. I want to be a good person too. So that's another thing too. Kind of like, you know,
Did your wife make you do that?
well, she didn't make me, but it's something that I feel like will help our relationship. And since I said that's more important, I'll do that.
Dude, now see, that's something to respect right there. You got a whole bunch of people following you, all kinds of pretty women sending you everything you can imagine. And yes, there's hateful things in there too or whatever, but you have access to a whole lot of attention.
Archive.
And an
Whole world.
archive. Yeah. And then you just gave it up because that's not good for your marriage.
Not good for your soul.
Now
Not good for anything.
now listen to him. Listen to this guy. You sound like you're getting all sage-like.
I look
over
like a
here.
wizard with my long beard. You
I
know?
love it. Dude, you have depth. That is what, you know, you just can't capture that on the stories and the shows and stuff where we're just talking about, you know, this relationship. I don't know if it could be captured or if it has been. But every conversation I ever had was, I just felt this profound depth to it. Mm-hmm. We're not talking bullshit. We're not talking, you know, what's playing at the movies. You just jump right into meaningful things that are going on for you or other people. So
that's life. That's I think people forget that. Like, it's not what's trending that's important. It's what's inside you that matters.
I love it, man. You're just a remarkable person. I just think that, you know, you're learning. You've allowed yourself to be made fun of, really, to be. I mean,
the amusement of others.
It has been, it's been entertaining to a lot of people. That's why you kept being reinvited. I guess they say, oh yeah, this guy's golden.
Well, a lot of people burn out too, right? They can't handle it. They can't
all
handle
that
the emotional
scrutiny and the pressure and the
so
people.
they go down the surgeries or the whatever path that they have to do to stop that. You know, they got to lose weight, they got to bulk up, they got to change their appearance, you know, and then they stop becoming, they become something else. They become whatever the public opinion algorithm wants them to be, you know, and that's usually a doll or a robot or a horrible thing. So you can't let those things bother you in life. That's the thing I learned from the show, you know, aim one ear out the other. Appreciate the energy projected at you, whether it's good or bad. Take it as it's just the energy, and whether it's, you know, people loving you or hating you, that doesn't really matter as such. You can just ignore that part because they don't love you, really, right? They don't know you.
They don't even know you.
Yeah. So how can they love you? How can they hate you? They can have a tension energy projected towards you, you know. If you just harvest that nugget of it and get rid of the waste of the rest, you can go pretty far with it.
Wow. So awesome to talk to you, man. I hope that
Always a pleasure.
we may have to do this again and check in with you here in a little while.
Yeah.
And
exciting news.
Check on your updates.
Can't talk about it too much, but it's, hopefully I'll see you again in a few months.
You're like a man becoming right here.
Debrief you.
Yes. Yeah, I love your progress, just what you're trying to do to distance yourself from the things that aren't really going to bring you joy and really try to come closer to that which does. It sounds like right now that's Vanessa.
Definitely my marriage, and just trying to figure out myself. That's the most important thing.
Right on, Colt. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. I've got a couple things I'm going to dig out of a box here. I got a hat and a t-shirt. Maybe I'll throw at you.
Swag. Thank you, dude.
All right, man. Take care. We'll see you later. You guys, we're sharing stories of men who are doing great things. In the case of Colt Johnson here, he's done some great things in that he's been on multiple seasons of multiple TV shows. And much of that was his bad behavior, as he described earlier. And he wants to be a different person. And he wants to try to grow. And he wants to put away things that aren't really serving him in the things that he wants. He just wants love. That's all he's ever wanted. He hasn't quite known how to do that because of some of the circumstances of his upbringing and the circumstances of the upbringing of the people who brought him up. So we appreciate you being here today, Colt. You guys, wherever you are in life, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you've failed in, whatever has happened to your relationships, whatever happened in your family growing up, you can make a decision to make your own path. You can make a decision to set boundaries. That was one of the real golden things that Colt shared here earlier, that confidence is a reflection of your boundaries. And that may be something that you need help with. If you do, reach out to me. I'll put any links to Colt in case anybody wants to reach out to him and ask for a copy of his pictures, his famous pictures. Until next time, you guys, no excuses. Alpha up.
Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.